Alexander Ngungu Nthungi is the second case to come into the limelight. A transgender case. The first, of course, is Audrey Mbugo. We've spoken to her here on NTV. He got an award of 200,000 shillings against the police for stripping him naked to ascertain his gender. Alexander is now with us, as well as his lawyer Daniel Okabi. Asanteni sana kwa kukuja. Tuanze na wewe. Wewe unafanya kazi gani?
Nauza matunda.
Wapi?
Thika sokoni, Thika Makongeni.
Umeuza kwa miaka ngapi?
Niko na miaka 8.
Miaka 8 kufanya kazi hiyo. Lakini kama wewe uko na miaka ngapi duniani?
Mimi niko na 31.
Ulizaliwa Thika ama ulizaliwa wapi?
Nyumbani Matu.
Nyumbani Matu. So ulifikaje Thika?
Nilikuwa nimekuja biashara. Lakini nilikuwa nakuja nauza, narudi nyumbani, lakini nikaendelea hivyo, nikaanza kukaa Thika tu.
Na jinsi ulivyoenda hii koti ya Nairobi, ni kwa sababu polisi walikuwa wamekutoa nguo kwa njia isiyo halali, ni kweli? And let's bring in the lawyer right now. The case here is that the police infringed on Alexander's rights to decency, I believe, one of them. But what was the centerpiece of your case?
Main issue was mostly to deal with the stripping by the police, as well as the public being made to see the pictures through one of the media stations in the country, with a view of identifying the gender of the petitioner in this case, of which were amounted to intruding into the privacy of the petitioner. Yes.
The petitioner, before this, was a private citizen. Then the pictures were published, so it became almost a matter of public ridicule.
That's true. That's true. In any case, in fact, the main issue was the stripping to ascertain the gender of the petitioner. And for the court, it was an issue to bordering between dressing as a male and dressing as a female. Whereas the petitioner had a gender identity disorder, he had dressed as a female. And more or less, the assertion was he was impersonating as being a different gender as opposed to whichever gender he is. Yes.
Alexander, uliposhikwa ulikuwa umevalia vipi?
Nilikuwa nimevalia skirt na blouse na kofia ya weave.
Kwa nini? Hivyo ndivyo jinsi unavyovaa ama vipi?
Mimi nilikuwa nasikia poa tu kama nimevaa hivyo.
Ilikuwa mara ya kwanza ama ulikuwa umevalia hivyo tena kwa mara nyingine?
Nilikuwa na miaka kadhaa.
Na watu unaofanya nao biashara, watu wanaonunua kwako wanasema vipi?
Hawakuwa na shida yote.
Kwa hivyo mbona polisi, jinsi kwamba hao polisi waliokushika walikuwa nakujua kutoka kitambo?
Hata polisi walikuwa wamenijua kutoka kitambo. Sasa mama mwenye tulikuwa tumekosana na yeye juu nikuje kushikwa, ni yeye alikuwa na hii pitina. Na ni jirani yetu, ananijua tu.
So jinsi unavyoishi, unaishi peke yako, unaishi na mwingine ama vipi?
Kuishi aje?
Mahali unapoishi Thika, unaishi kwa nyumba yako wewe mwenyewe, unaishi na wengine ama vipi?
Niko na sister zangu wawili, naishi na wao Thika. Wako mmoja ako college, mwingine ako nini ya kushuka. Lakini nyumba nimekomboa nyumba 2.
Kwa hivyo biashara yako inakupatia pesa ya kutosha kukomboa hizo nyumba zote 2?
Sio vile, ni kujaribu tu.
Jinsi ninavyouliza ni kwa sababu hawa sisters wako wawili walifikiria vipi jinsi ulipoanza kuvalia kama wao? Walisema nini?
Hakuna kitu walisema.
Walikukubali tu vile uko?
Walinikubali tu.
For the lawyer Daniel, yes. What do you mean he's got a gender identity disorder?
The assertion by a doctor who undertook a psychiatric test made an opinion that the petitioner had a gender identity disorder, mostly to deal with her mannerism, whereby he has a conduct of a female, whereas biologically he is a male. And the doctor said that one cannot be mostly, you cannot say this is based on a particular thing. And the gender identity disorder itself is a disorder that has already been recognized. In fact, the court made an opinion that the decision of the court was that the mere fact that one dresses in a particular way does not in itself make you to be subjected to any form of degrading treatment. And whether you are a female or a male and you choose to wear either gender's clothing or conduct, you take up that conduct, you have a right to self-autonomy. Yes.
Is this illegal? Because what we have here is a manner of an issue of cross-dressing. Is it illegal under Kenyan law?
The decision of the court gave more or less a very important opinion with regards to who should at all, as to what mostly, as to what one should do as an individual. It did not in any way say that you have, I mean, the right to choice is a right that is recognized, and you cannot alienate that right. And the assertion by, in fact, it was an assertion by the state in this case that the petitioner is an insane person, which we quite objected to. And the finding of the court that was that there was no correlation between gender identity disorder and the conduct of the petitioner, more so on the mental health aspect.
Alexander, turudi kwako, ulisomea wapi, ulikulia wapi?
Nyumbani tu.
Uko Matuu?
Nikasomea shule ya primary mpaka darasa la 7.
Alafu nyumbani pia wanajua saa zingine unavalia kama mwanamke?
Wanajua tu.
Mama na baba wanasema vipi? Pole sana kwa kohozi.
Hakuna kitu anasema.
Watu wa nyumbani kwenye eneo hilo, kwenye mji? Majirani.
Hakuna kitu anasemanga.
I want to bring in Audrey Mbugua, who we talked about at the top of the show. Audrey Mbugua is obviously well known to many people now. She has spoken about her case publicly. And you are supporting Alexander when he was in court together with the lawyer. Why is it you're so interested in this case?
Actually, I never just give the support in court, but outside court. We were concerned about the social and psychological well-being of my sister here. And we had to seek out of medical assistance in terms of counseling, in terms of reassurance that things will be okay, and also networking with the rest of the transsexuals in Kenya.
You can't strictly say your sister here because anatomically he's still a man.
Okay, you see, the determinant of sex is not just your anatomical features or characteristics such as genitals or appearance. There's something called gender identity, which is your self-awareness as either male or female. That is a key component of your sex. So sex is not just your appearance or your genitals. There's something called gender identity.
And what
or
is
your
that?
psychology. Gender identity or core gender identity is your self-awareness as male or female. It's normally determined before birth through the action of hormones inside the uterus. And for me, if you identify yourself as male or female, I mean, that is the basic thing of all.
But it is much greater, Audrey, than just identify yourself as male or female. Your ability to live a normal life, quote unquote, becomes greatly hampered when people identify you a certain way, when you were born a certain way, and you're going through that.
Yeah, true. But the most important thing, as Advocate Daniel Wakabi said, is self-autonomy. It doesn't matter what people say about you. You are this, you are this. I mean, how many people understand that the choice of clothing that they wear, even the mere fact that if you ask somebody, are you male or female, they say male. They don't necessarily say they are male because they have maybe a penis or other components of male genitalia. They say that because inside them, they feel they're male, not because of what they have between their legs.
Alright. Turudi kwako Alexander. Wewe ni mtu unaenda kanisani ama mahali kama hapo? Ama msikiti ama vipi?
Mimi naenda kanisani.
Na watu huko ukienda kanisani unavalia vipi? Unavalia kama mwanamume ama mwanamke?
Navalia tu nguo ile inanipendeza.
Kwa hivyo kwa wakati mwingine utavalia kama mwanamke, wakati mwingine kama mwanamume. Na watu kanisani wanasema vipi?
Sasa unajua mimi hata wakisema hawezi niambia. Labda mtu anaweza sema na aseme kwa roho.
Ama wasemee kivyao.
Asikia haya ya kuniambia.
Unaamini Mungu? Kila siku unaomba, kila mara unaomba? Mbona unacheka? Manake ni swali la kujibu.
Kwani kuna mtu ajui Mungu?
Huyu haamini Mungu. Audrey alisema haamini Mungu.
Unajua kanisa kulingana na kanisa ile naandanga. Sio kama wale unajua unaweza kuwa unajua Mungu na ukae kwa roho yako. Sio kama wakati tuko kwa mkutano mingi, saa hiyo ndio unawasajinua na useme wewe unajua Mungu. Unaonyesha watu unajua Mungu. Lakini ukitoka nyumbani kwako unajua tu umeomba na unajua Mungu atakusaidia. Wewe unajua kuko na Mungu hata ukifanya pipi. Unajua kuna Mungu, lakini ile ya kuonyesha mbele ya watu ndio hiyo staki. Unasema wewe unamjua Mungu sana.
Lakini ukienda kanisani tuseme kama kuna chama ya wanaume na kuna chama ya kina mama, utaingia gani?
Sijawahi enda chama.
Hujaenda chama?
Napikanga kama ni misa, sinaenda Catholic. Kama ni misa ikiisha mimi natokea naenda zangu.
Ungependa kubadilisha mwili wako uwe mwanamke? Ungependa kubadilisha mwili wako ule uwe mwanamke ama ungependa tu kuendelea kuvalia kama mwanamke?
Mimi nikifikiria nitakwambia.
Kwa sasa hujafikiria?
Wacha kwanza nikuakue.
Let's look at this wider issue, Daniel, which is I don't know if this is the first case of this kind you've handled.
That's true. Probably this is one of the first cases that has been highlighted. There could be other cases that have been done before, but probably they haven't been able to get the media's attention as compared to this case.
As a man, how do you be able to even relate with what he's talking about? Who, as a lawyer, what goes through your mind when you decide to pick up a case like this?
There is one principle we apply in law that is referred to as the cab-rank rule, that you can take up any case as long as your conscience is very clear. I may not be subscribing to whatever the petitioner and also Audrey accede to, but either way I'm advancing a right, and which is more of a greater interest as opposed to my personal preference or opinion. Yes.
Audrey, you're starting to have an army of people who subscribe to your beliefs. Do you think you have inspired them? Have you inspired people like Alexander?
What beliefs are you talking about here?
Your way of life, I should say.
No, it's not a way of life. I had a mental disorder, gender identity disorder. It's not a way of life. It so happens that there are other people there who have this disorder. Watching Alexandra being stripped by police, I mean, it was so humiliating for me to take action. It was not actually that I wanted to recruit anyone to my way of life or anything. I don't have a way of life, and even if I had, gender identity disorder is not a component of that way of life.
Right.
So for me, there are people out there, they have problems. Some are able to come out and say enough is enough. Let us now fix these problems. Alexander is one of them, and I'm really grateful for the courage that she has exhibited in all this. There are others there who have suffered, and we have even seen in our media outlets being beaten up by the police. At times you try to follow it up, and it so happens that they don't have the courage to pursue justice. So I can only commend Alexandra for the courage to make things right for the rest of the community.
Ulikutana vipi na huyu wakili na Audrey? Mlikutana vipi?
Wakili? Wakili nilipatana na yeye nikiwa huko Thika station. Ndio nilitumana nitafutiwa wakili. Nikaletwa kotini. Sasa wakati nilitolewa kotini huko Thika, ndio baadaye nikaitwa na wakili, kaniambia kuna mtu ananihitaji. Hata alikuwa ameniambia kuna watu wa human rights wanakuhitaji. Sasa ndio nilikuja kwa ofisi, ndio tulipatana na huyo.
So you took this case pro bono, or is Audrey paying for it?
This was one of the cases that initially, partly we've done pro bono as a return, as a more or less a CSR, and also giving back to the Kenyans. For, in any case, it was one of a special nature of a right that we were advancing, and more or less, one thing I need to dispel is that our case involved, or it was related to the petitioner wanting to change the gender.
Right.
It's not at all related to that issue. It's more or less on violation as any other petition. Yes.
Did you take this case because it was likely to garner media attention? You're an ambitious guy, you'll come in the media, interviews like these, develop your career?
Not really. In fact, interestingly enough, this petition was filed back in 2012, and we've run this matter out of the cameras, far off from the media at all, and all of a sudden when we got the judgment, interestingly enough, the judgment was delivered last week on Friday, and all of a sudden now issues are emerging, because Audrey, the publicity Audrey has received previously could be the reason as to why this one got the attention it has.
So it's all Audrey's fault?
It is not. I will not. I will
No,
not.
I'm kidding.
Right.
So it's all your fault. You're making sure all of these cases get that attention they perhaps do not always get?
No, actually, I think it's an idea whose time has come, that transgender people or transsexual people can stand up and say enough is enough. I mean, in most cases, people are comfortable with us when we lay low, when things are going haywire in our lives. But the moment we stand up and say, oh, okay, what happened to my dignity? Why did you use my dignity to wipe your shoes with? Then people say, no, you're supposed to remain down there. You're not supposed to talk about rights.
But you know, that's easier for you to say as an activist because you're already a brave person. You're fine with people almost intruding into your life. But he's got to go into his own life. He's got a life in Thika. And people see him on TV and see him in the papers, and it's very different.
Yeah, but okay, I'm not just an activist. I'm somebody's sister. I'm somebody's daughter. I'm somebody's aunt. I'm a neighbor to somebody. I mean, this whole legal, whatever, gymnastic, it brought a whole lot of changes in my lives. And I wish things were not like this. But hey, I need to stand up and fix these problems. Yeah?
So to a certain degree, you have brought Alexander into the limelight. So what else will you do for him in terms of trying to make sure he gets sometimes the kind of help and networks and connections you have?
Okay, there's the element of psychosocial support. Alexander still complains of at times having some anxiety, depression and all that because of the action of the police, the violations that took place. We have to comfort one another, meet regularly, have some tea, you know, look into how the business is going, meet her family and so forth. And also, I appreciate the support that Alexander has also offered me. And it's encouraging, you know, knowing that I have somebody who shares the ideals that I share.
All right. Alexander, kwa mwisho, unajua wengine wenye walio kwenye mahali ulipo ambao ni walizaliwa wanaume lakini kwa saa zingine wanavalia kama wanawake? Wewe ndio mtu wa kwanza. Kwa hivyo hakuna mtu.
Sijawa na mwingine, kunaweza kuwa na mwingine na simjui.
Lakini si mahali unapoishi, mahali unapenda kanisa hujaona wengine?
Sijaona.
Ungependa kwa siku zijazo kuoa ama kuolewa?
Si nimekuambia nitafikiria hayo nikikua kuwa.
Ama kupata mtoto, ungependa kupata mtoto?
Nimekuambia aje.
Haya, sawa. Asante sana kwa kuja. This has been a great conversation. I must say thank you to Alexander, to Daniel Wokabi, the lawyer, and of course, as always, to Audrey Mbugua. We appreciate your time. This is The Trend. We'll be back in a moment.